Hi everybody, my name is Jen Henriksen and I'm with Mission Adventuring Travel. Today we're doing a how to be a participant in a Zoom meeting. This is just a quick little reference video to kind of get you used to your way around a Zoom room. A lot of different a lot of different organizations are going to this platform this fall simply because COVID has us with no other options. So this might be a pretty easy way for you to just get your bearings around a Zoom classroom pretty quickly. So first thing I wanted to tell you is anytime when you get invited to a Zoom meeting, a lot of times it's just going to be a link. And when you click on that link, there's a couple of things you're going to need. You're either going to need a meeting ID. If it doesn't go directly into you signing in and put you in the meeting, it'll ask you for a meeting ID. Don't panic. Every meeting has this 9-digit number assigned to it. If you don't have that number, usually the link is going to get you right through. Now, as of August 2020, Zoom has put some security features in place where a lot of times you will have to have a password in order to get into a meeting as well. Again, just some security features they're adding. If you happen to log in and this thing pops up on your screen and it says your host will let you in shortly, that's another security feature that Zoom is putting in place that puts you in a waiting room, basically, just like if you were at the doctor, and you sit in the waiting room until the host admits you to the meeting. So when you see it, don't think that nothing's going on. Usually right at the time the meeting starts, the host is pretty faithful at starting right on time and ending hopefully right on time. So they'll add you in and immediately you'll be added to the meeting. So just be patient, okay? I always recommend you that you have a pen and paper handy because in Zoom, a lot of times when you're in a virtual meeting room, you can't just pop up and speak whenever you want to. Usually there's going to be kind of an order to things just so we can be able to hear each other and get through meetings in a timely manner. So it's best to plan on not speaking and having a pen and paper handy so you can write things down as you have questions, okay? When you come in, one of the first things that you're going to notice is a name along the bottom of your screen. Right where your picture is, your camera, there'll be a name. Now, if it's your husband's computer, for me, it would say Tom Henriksen because that's my husband's computer. If I wanted to change the name that's listed on there, all I have to do is go find my name. Usually if you look at participants, it'll tell you the names of the people. Click on more and you'll be able to rename your name. Okay, so I'm just going to type in your trainer now just so you can see it pop up there. But anytime you need to change the name of it, and I recommend to you that a lot of times when you're in a private meeting, which is a lot of times what you'll find yourself in, not open public meetings, I recommend that you use your first and your last name. Just makes it easier. If it is a public meeting, I don't recommend using first and last name, okay? But anything for private meetings, that should be fine. Now we got to get your microphone and we have to get your camera working. The biggest thing you need to know, regardless of whether you're on a PC or an Apple product, is forget about your phone now just for a minute. I'm recommending you always use a laptop to log into a Zoom meeting if you can. I'll tell you why in just a minute. Along the bottom of your screen, you'll see a toolbar. And that toolbar will have things on it starting from the left, like mute or microphone. It'll have stop video or start video. It'll have different maybe security features, show you the participants list, maybe a share screen button if the host has enabled that for you, maybe a reactions where you can put a smiley face or little emojis up. And it'll also have a chat feature. And when you go to chat, some people are really quick on Zoom, so they're zipping off to the chat with no problem. You might not even know where it is yet. As soon as someone chats in, it's going to either flash a number, flash orange or flash a number at you down on that bottom toolbar. So you'll be able to tell when a chat comes in. Don't be afraid to click on it, and up on the right-hand side of your picture, it'll pull up either the chat box or the participants list or whatever it is that you've clicked on the bottom. So let's say we want to test our mic. That's the first thing we want to do when we log in. You're going to click on the microphone button, and right to the right of it, you'll see a little carrot arrow. If you click on it, it'll say test your speakers. Make sure that when you can hear yourself back in the speakers and hearing it play. If you can, you're all set with microphone. Most computers nowadays can do that automatically without you messing with it. But if you're having some issues, you might need to toggle back and forth between a couple of the features that it offers you to use as a microphone. Same thing with camera. Next, you want to make sure that your camera is working well. And if it is, that's when you want to make sure that you're making sure your lighting is okay. You can see well. There aren't any issues there with either you being too dark in the front, that sort of thing. Your camera positioning is right, so you're not way, way high or way low. This is very common for a lot of laptop users because the camera is at the top of the screen. If you're a laptop user, I recommend putting it on a couple of books, and that'll help bring your face back into focus. Perfect scenario for a screen is about an inch above your head to the top of the screen. That's really where you're framed the best, okay? So now your camera's working, you've tested your mic and your camera, you're ready to go. Next thing would be to find the chat feature. Couple of things I want to point out to you, depending on who your host is. A lot of times you're going to start in a waiting room. They're going to let you in. It's becoming more and more common for people to post a rule in the chat box. They'll say, we're posting the rules in the chat box. Please make sure you read them. They're going to be very standard. Things like no political, no religious, no, off-color comments, those sorts of things. Be nice, be courteous, be kind. We reserve the right to boot you if you're not, things like that, okay? And as we should, right? Because we're having some issues with that in a lot of other areas. So a lot of times groups are taking to posting those chat rules in the beginning. Just helps keep us all on the same page. A lot of times you're going to come into a meeting and you're going to be muted, which means even if you set up your microphone, you're not able to talk. That's not you. That's the host muting the meeting. And one of the reasons we do that is because if we have 25 people coming into a room and 3 of them are really, really good on Zoom, they all start talking right away, and it gets very confusing for either the host or for other people that are in the meeting. So a lot of times you'll hear someone say, welcome, we're glad you're here, you're all muted, you may unmute yourselves when it's time to talk. And I want to really encourage you to get in the practice of staying muted, because as we get larger and larger in our group size in a Zoom room, it gets more and more confusing when people forget that they're not muted, and you can start hearing dogs barking and dishes clanging and a TV in the background. So that's one thing, is just to be very attentive of making sure that you're muted if you're not the one speaking. A lot of times people, what I hear from the participant side is, I typed it in the chat. I typed in my question and she never got to me. Remember that the host is busy hosting. They're looking at you. They're presenting the material they need to present. So a lot of times, that's why I say bring a pen and paper. It's good to hold your questions until a later time that they can address them, because they don't have time to be looking and scrolling through the chat and seeing what everybody's asking when they're trying to be talking. Especially me. I have a lot of issues with that. So it's really the host setting up how the meeting is going to go in the beginning. Speaking of that, please have grace. There is a whole lot of people that do not have experience in an online environment. This is very, very new to them. And you know how it is if you're standing up in front of a room of people and you're trying to do a presentation and the microphone doesn't turn on, or someone blurts out a question that you weren't prepared for. A lot of those things, even in a personal face-to-face meeting, are very difficult things to navigate. Well, now we're virtual. So a lot more people that would never be comfortable on a stage are having to present in an online forum. And as we know, people can be very blunt and straightforward in an online forum, because why not? I can type whatever words I want to type. I want to encourage you to have grace with your hosts all through the year in every organization you're a part of. Have grace for them. Everybody is under the same mental stress going on with COVID right now, and we're having to come up with new ways to present material that even if we know it very well, and that can be very stressful. So please be sure to comment and encourage your hosts. Send them an email afterwards. Tell them what a great job they did. Thank them for taking the time. They've most likely practiced, put on a little extra makeup, and made some run-throughs just so they could do a better job for you. And chances are, everything's not going to go really smoothly in a meeting. You're going to get bored. You're going to wish things could go faster. Someone's going to ask too many questions. Everybody can always do it better, right? So please have grace with the hosts out there that are just getting going with Zoom. And as always, if you ever, need to ask any questions or anything, feel free to chat on my video below. But I know you're going to do a great job encouraging your hosts, and you're going to be able to navigate your way around Zoom with no problem at all, I'm sure. One other question I want to address that I hear a lot. And a lot of people will say, I went away, I went to another place on my computer to look at something, and now I can't find you. I can hear you, but I can't find your screen, find the Zoom screen. So remember how a computer works, okay? And this might be basic for some of you, but bear with me. A computer is basically a bunch of windows open at the same time. Zoom is one of those windows. If we have to leave and go to another part of the computer and pull up this PDF document that we're looking at, or this website that we're looking at, it's not on the same window that Zoom is on. So just like anything else that you do with multiple windows on your computer, you're going to need to navigate back to the Zoom window in order to see everyone again. Okay, so that's one of the biggest questions we get from participants is I can't hear you. I mean, I hear you, but I can't see you. I went someplace else on my thing. Usually a host is not going to be able to help you, because while they're hosting the meeting, they can't get to your side of the computer to see what you just navigated away to. So my recommendation to you first is to stay on the Zoom call, stay on the Zoom meeting. And most likely somebody's going to be sharing a document with you on that screen. But if at all possible, especially if you're not savvy with computers, don't navigate away from the Zoom screen. Stay on your call, okay? The other thing is when meetings start muted, where you can't talk, right? The host is making it so you can't talk. A lot of times when we unclick that mute button and we say, okay, Sally, what was your question? This is what we see. And then you'll hear Sally, we can't hear, Sally, we can't hear you. Sally, can you hear me? What's happening is you are unmuted. The host can see that they've just unmuted you. So when they're telling you that they can't hear you, that isn't a Zoom thing. That's something on your computer. So a lot of times there's some setting, you plugged in a speaker, something is off. And that's why I recommend to you, as soon as you get into the online platform, as soon as you get into that meeting, take just a moment and check your microphone, test your speakers, and check your camera. Because when it comes time for you to ask your question, they aren't going to see that lips moving. They're going to actually hear you when you need to talk. Okay? Anyway, hope you found this super helpful. Have a great day, everybody, and happy Zooming.